What is up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to the Alliance Blog podcast, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is Jay Cal, and with me today, I kind of feel like we have royalty in the house. We have the world famous Cheeseburger joining us momentarily to talk about all things pro wrestling. And I feel like the measuring stick in pro wrestling, and this is just your boy Jay's thought here, and I'm gonna ask Cheeseburger this momentarily, but it's how far can you go in the sport of pro wrestling? I feel like that's the measurement of success. And when you think about it, Cheeseburger's a guy it's been everywhere, man. I mean, he wrestled in Alaska for crying out loud, but more importantly, not only was it a central figure in Ring of Honor, but also has made appearances for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And to me, I feel like that are huge accomplishments in the sport of pro wrestling. And so, without any further ado, the world famous CB joins us live and in person. Cheeseburger, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. I'm very good. And I am somebody who has always kind of been I live in Southern California, so we didn't
Okay.
have like regular Ring of Honor for us to
Yeah.
like see on TV. Like we'd get the pay-per-views and whatnot, but Sinclair wasn't airing out here, and then back in the day, HD Net wasn't in a lot of homes, so
Oh, yeah.
it was hard to get ROH here on the West Coast. But what you have accomplished in the ring and what you've done is like kind of transcends ROH. People have talked about you forever. Even to me, is like, have you seen this guy Cheeseburger? Who's Cheeseburger? I have no idea what you're talking about. No, there's this guy. He wrestles for ROH, Cheeseburger. And I'm like, okay, tell me about him.
Mm.
And from what I've seen and what I've read and what I know about you, it's like you certainly have taken the best of the opportunities that have been presented to you and made the best of
Mm.
it.
Absolutely.
Let's get into the Cheeseburger lore, if you
Sure.
will, because like one thing that I like to know when I do interviews, one of the things it's
Mm.
like everyone has a unique story of how they got into pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Uh, I didn't know it, but my mom was a huge wrestling fan. We were kids, and we're like, "Hey, mom, can we get the WrestleMania? Sure. Can we get War Games? Sure." And I always thought she was just really cool and loved wrestling, like
Yeah.
loved her kids enjoying it. My mom and her dad used to go to the Grand Olympic back in the early 50s, watching pro wrestling,
Oh, yeah.
Gorgeous
Mm.
George and that sort of thing. So wrestling is kind of in my DNA. My kids don't watch it, but I force it on them all the time. And
They'll grow to love it.
I want to know your story. How did you get into pro wrestling?
Well, the initial parts aren't like very unique, but basically, I watched it with my dad, going over to his house when I was a kid. I remember I started watching wrestling right around when SmackDown began. I remember those early days of SmackDown, popping up in like I think 2000, 2001 when SmackDown started. And that
Yeah.
kind of got me hooked. And yeah, I would watch it with him, and it was just something that I grew to love, that I really enjoyed. And then I feel like a lot of people have that moment where they stop watching wrestling and they kind of fall out of love with it for a little bit.
Yeah.
That for me was around high school when I got into high school when I was a freshman. None of my friends watched it, and I felt like I was like, oh, I'm getting too old to like watch wrestling. Like so, I stopped watching for a few years. So I missed that whole like 2006 like 2009 period, like the ECW rebirth, like the rise
Oh
of
yeah,
CM
yeah,
Punk, like Jeff
yeah.
Hardy being champion. All that stuff I missed and ended up having to go back and watch like way later. But I got back into wrestling in late 2009, early 2010, and I fell back in love with that. I remember thinking, wow, why did I stop watching this? This is awesome. I
Right.
can't believe I'm not watching that. And then I got super in depth with it. I was watching every single WWE show. I discovered TNA. I started watching like Ring of Honor. I started watching Independence. I discovered like Japanese wrestling as well. That got me hooked, and it was just like it was like off to the races at that point. All that other stuff, like I had knew about it a little bit. Like I knew about Ring of Honor briefly before that, but it was just like at that point I was all in. Like every day I was watching something wrestling related, and just like, wow, I love this. And I remember seeing an ad for the Ring of Honor school, and it was about 10 minutes from my house at the time.
Wow.
And I was thinking, I was in that weird period between like junior and senior year of high school where you have to decide what you want to do with the rest of your life, even though you're like 16 years old.
Right, right.
So I
And
decided I want to try to get into pro wrestling, but I thought I was too small to be a wrestler, so I originally wanted to sign up as a manager at the Ring of Honor school. So I met with the trainers, I met the leaders, met Daisy Hayes that summer of 2010. I was 17 years old, so you can train at 17 with parental consent. And yeah, I met with them, loved the school, everything, loved the vibe. And yeah, signed up October 2010 and started my training. And I didn't know managers need to do all the same training as wrestlers. So I
yeah,
was learning how to wrestle and I fell in love with it. I started doing really well, especially when we learned technical wrestling and chain wrestling, which is like my favorite thing, especially now.
yeah.
When we started learning that, I was like, asked my trainers, hey, can I continue my training as a pro wrestler? And they said, yeah, you're doing really well with that. I think that would be a good idea.
So the two questions I have to ask you right away are, number one, how did your parents take it? Because some parents are super supportive and like, yeah, let's go do it, son. Let's go for the races.
Mm.
And then some parents are like, nah, nah, this isn't us. You're not doing this. Where did your family lie in on this one?
They were supportive. My mom was mostly
That's great.
worried about me getting hurt.
Of course.
But they were very supportive of it. I think they were just kind of like like not confused about like how much of the future I could put into this. But
Yeah.
they were super supportive, and like even to this day, my mom still comes to a lot of the shows and comes to watch me wrestle. And when we have shows at the dojo, she'll come support us. If I have a local show in Philadelphia, she'll come by and support as well.
That's awesome. You love to see it. My parents were super supportive as well, but they were not interested in me becoming a wrestler at all. So
Ah,
I never went that route, but I did wrestle in high school, and
okay.
that was kind of like I was one of these kids that was completely shocked that there was no ring post or ropes when I got to high school wrestling. And but I definitely could see the foundation, a lot of what we learned in amateur wrestling in high school. A lot of those principles could be applied to pro wrestling in terms of conditioning, in terms of
Yes.
building up your core, your strength, and just even the maneuvers, the techniques, the grabbing, the grappling. A lot of that borrows from amateur wrestling and pro wrestling, and I have to ask you, did you have opportunities when you were in high school? Did you experience like amateur wrestling or any kind of high school sports to get you ready for your career in pro wrestling?
No, not really at all. I was not much of an athlete as a kid. I played a little bit of basketball in middle school. I did a little karate when I was like super young.
Okay,
But none of the schools I went to ever had amateur wrestling. If they did, I may have like tried to do it, but I'm not sure. I even like at that time, I don't even think I had a concept of really what amateur wrestling was as a kid growing up because just it wasn't in my like area. Like none of the schools really had it where I grew up in Jersey.
yeah,
Um, and I didn't even know like what jujitsu was at the time. If I can go back, I think I would love to like learn jujitsu as a kid and like kind of start that off very young and early. But yeah, no, I went to a pretty small, like, especially my high school. My high school is a very small, like, Catholic school, and they had a great basketball team. They had a great, like, women's soccer team. Their women's soccer team was like really good, but no amateur wrestling, nothing like that.
and I get it because like where I grew up too, wrestling wasn't a super popular sport. Like it,
Mhm.
I felt like when I was in high school, it started becoming a bigger thing than what it was. But
Yeah,
like it was, football, basketball, baseball, and then even to a
yeah.
lesser extent, I feel like soccer and track got more love than wrestling did. But
Mhm.
it's very interesting, and I'm sure like when you coach your wrestlers now,
Mhm.
I'm sure that you have an easier time coaching like just the fundamentals when you have had somebody who had that time in
Mhm.
amateur wrestling because I feel like it translates so well in terms of like your footwork and
Mhm.
just how to position your hands. Like if you've
Yes.
never done any athletic competition before, I'm sure that just locking up might be
It's
foreign to a lot of people.
that's very interesting. That's a very interesting point to bring up because It does. It helps in some ways, and in some ways it doesn't. It's all kind of person to person dependent.
Sure.
So I'll have some people who are amateur wrestlers that come in or have that background, and I would say the majority of the time their footwork is usually much better. Their balance is much better. Their footwork's much better. Their body control is much better. But sometimes you'll get the opposite side of the people that did a lot of like amateur wrestling or like maybe some kind of like grappling, like art or something like that, where they have trouble working pro wrestling because they're so conditioned to like do it legit.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I feel like that isn't the case, but you'll get some people where they just like you see them kind of fall back into those like shooter style mentalities, and you have to kind of like break that habit. But I would say most of the time, amateur wrestling people are very good at that. I would say also too, people that play football are generally very good at their footwork is just usually pretty good off the bat.
And you know, as a layman, because again, I've never wrestled in a pro
Mm.
wrestling ring. I've never well, I took a bump once, but that was beyond the point. Uh, just getting in there, we don't think about footwork as much.
Yes.
You know, like as a fan
Mhm.
watching it, we don't really think about footwork, but absolutely balance, and like you said, controlling
Oh
your
yeah.
body. Like these are huge in wrestling, but like on a day to day when I'm watching, watching the
Yeah.
Royal Rumble, I'm not thinking about footwork in the middle of that match. I'm
Not
just
not
thinking,
to not to cut you off, but that's funny. Yeah, it's funny you say that. I say this a lot where when we talk about footwork and training, fans don't think of footwork, but they can tell people that have good footwork that don't versus those that don't. But it's not something they can like. I feel like fans that notice, they can't really verbalize it unless they're actively seeing the person like stumble over their own 2 feet, you know.
right.
But most of the time, they can tell the people that have very good, very smooth footwork versus those that don't, but they don't know how to, they don't know why, they don't know how to verbalize it, they don't know what it is. But someone with like to the trained eye, you can say, oh, okay, I can see this person has very good body control, their balance, their footwork is very good. They take they can do this thing in as few steps as possible versus this person that takes like, twice as many steps to complete it. And then
Right.
also too, the other thing is, especially in independent wrestling, where a lot of the rings can be very loud, as I'm sure you know,
Yeah.
because they're like just old rings. You can tell, like, say when two people are chain wrestling, you can tell like someone just like stomping their feet around and taking like 20 steps to do a wrist lock versus like boom, 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 versus someone that's like it has that cadence and everything. Again, so I feel like it's something fans can't always verbalize, but they can tell sometimes.
Well, and you say that, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, because like when someone's got like happy feet and they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
they're
Y-
they're moving really
The
fast.
ring's
Like,
like do 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 do. You're like,
so
what the fuck? Oh, sorry, I mean to
it,
curse. My bad.
no, you're totally good. You're good. In Spanish, they say "tranquilo, guapo," just calm
Yeah.
down, take it easy. Uh, so like, yeah, it's that's very interesting. I never really saw it from that perspective. So
Mhm.
you opened my eyes today on just the way that I look at wrestling a little bit differently. So who were some of your favorites growing up then? If you started watching during that when SmackDown started, I imagine that was Rock was really big, Triple
Yep.
H was really big, Shawn
Mhm.
was kind of phasing out towards the to
Mhm.
his break from pro wrestling. Brett was gone, Stone Cold was kind of still around but not as
Yeah,
active.
yeah.
Who were your guys?
Um, Chris Jericho was one of my favorites. Him, Eddie, Ray. I love The Rock. I love. Yeah, Stone Cold was still around at that time, but definitely not to the same level. That was right around the time like Brock came in and everything. I
Yeah.
think uh yeah, Batista was starting his rise, everything, him and Triple H. Evolution. I love the whole evolution, that whole storyline, everything with that. But at the time I would say like Jericho was one of my favorites. Christian, especially. I loved Edge and Christian, the Hardys, the Dudleys, all of them, all three of those teams. But I was always a big Christian guy. I always just felt like he never got his like just due as a kid. I remember just thinking like, all right, what's it gonna be Christian's time? Like I was a big fan of his.
That's
Every oh sorry, go.
I was just saying that's funny because his theme music in TNA is it's Christian, he's on
Yeah,
his
yeah,
own.
yeah. Every kid loved the Hardys, of course. Like, how could you be a kid and not love the Hardys? But yeah, those are my favorites, and But once I discovered Japanese wrestling, my whole like wrestling mindset just like completely like exploded. And the first match I ever seen from Japan was Jushin Liger versus Great Muta from New Japan, and
Oh, wow.
that was the one where like Liger gets his mask ripped off and he has like the face paint and everything, and he goes crazy. And it's I was just like, I saw these two crazy looking guys come out with these intricate entrances and everything like that. And I remember thinking like, oh, like what am I watching? I remember it was just like a match on YouTube that popped up, and I was blown away by just the pageantry and everything. And right away, like Jushin Liger became my favorite wrestler, and then Great Muta became my second favorite at the time. But currently and always, Jushin Liger is my favorite wrestler, and got to be a great mentor of mine too, and a good friend. So that was really
That's
cool.
that's what I was going to ask you about later, but since we're here, I mean, might
Mhm.
as well. Like, there's a saying like never meet your heroes, right?
Mhm.
And I find that in pro wrestling, a lot of times that's accurate. Like, you don't want to meet some of these guys, but
Mhm.
from everything I've ever heard about Jushin Liger, he's an amazing dude. And you were able to not only see him as a fan, but then able to share the ring with him, have that relationship with him while working in New Japan Pro Wrestling and ROH, and then even get to team with him.
Yes.
And tell me about that. Like, I mean, again, Liger is a junior heavyweight legend, and you know, when you talk about Mount Rushmore of wrestling, I think that his name certainly belongs
Mhm.
there at some point. We especially talk about junior heavyweights and cruiserweights. I mean, he did hold the octuple crown. He was the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. He's held the NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion multiple times.
Mhm.
I mean, the guy's so celebrated, and I don't know what else nicer thing you could say about Jushin Thunder Liger except for he's amazing.
Yes.
What was your experience stepping into the ring with him and getting to work with him and around him?
Oh, he's amazing. Just the sweetest person. Everything I want to be in a legend. Super helpful. Just super kind. Super respected. Just an absolute legend. Absolute professional. Incredible human being. But yeah, getting to meet my when he returned to Ring of Honor, it was the first time he had been there in like years. I think probably since he had wrestled Brian Danielson in like '06, '07, maybe around that point. Maybe he had came for one more appearance after that. But when we got the Ring of Honor and New Japan deal in 2014, he was one of the guys listed to come over. I believe it was, yeah, 2014. He came over. I remember the show he did in Toronto. He had a match and he was making his entrance, and I was still on ring crew at the time. I was wrestling for Ring of Honor, but I was still doing
Sure.
like student duties and like helping out and everything like that. So
Yeah.
wherever I was doing, I just stopped doing my job and I just like ran to like the stands to like go get a video of Liger coming out. I'm like, I cannot miss this. I absolutely cannot miss this. And yeah, getting to connect with him and getting to talk to him and just getting to tag with him was amazing. He was always great at giving me advice, being positive. Taught me my finisher, the Shote Palm Strike, which is one of his signature moves, which is awesome. Passed that down to me essentially. And yeah, Liger, I could not say enough good things about him. And he, I remember my first trip to Japan when I did the Tokyo Dome show. I had to go into the like main like locker room, which is across the building. So one of the guys brought me across the building to the locker room, and
Yeah.
they pointed to the door, and I opened the door, and you ever see that like meme where it's like record scratch like freeze frame like how did I get
Yeah.
here or something like that? Yeah, it felt like that. Like I opened the door and it felt like maybe I'm imagining this, but it felt like time stopped and like everyone was talking and just kind of stopped talking and all just turned and like all the like legends and stuff that are there like the Tokyo Dome, New Japan locker room, just like it felt like they all stopped and like everyone just turned and looked at me like who is this guy? And then Liger like stood up in front of the whole locker room and told everyone this is Cheeseburger. He's from Ring of Honor. He's going to be in the Battle Royale today, and took me around the locker room, and introduced me to everybody. I was like, oh my god, thank God. I was just standing there by the door. It felt like an eternity. Just everyone just staring at me.
I know that there's like the locker room etiquette too, and I'm sure it transcends from the United States to Japan, where you have to go and introduce yourself and shake everyone's hand. And I know that people get real heat if they don't go
Mm,
and shake everybody's hand.
yeah,
It was funny. One time I was at a TV taping in LA for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and Willie Mack, who at that point in time he's a pretty big star in world wrestling. He comes over and shakes my hand. Hey, how you doing? I was like,
Mm.
I'm nobody, man. You don't have to shake my hand, but
Yeah,
I get that it's the respect factor, and I think it's kind of cool that Liger took you across the room, and what a great moment for you. You know, not only are you in the the void of the unknown, but like then your hero is there to help
yeah.
accommodate and introduce you
Yes.
to everyone. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it eased my nerves tremendously. Big time.
One of the questions in the chat, and I have to bring it up for you, uh, for
Oh,
your
I know we had
tag.
chat. Oh, cool.
There's a few people. It's in the middle of the day, and I feel like more people will probably watch this later in the evening or listen to it later.
Hello
But
to the chat.
yeah, Double D says, I know it's a squash match, but did Cheeseburger get any advice or learn anything from his AEW match with Bobby Lashley?
Lashley was awesome. He's another guy that's super nice. Like he was awesome. Again, a guy I watched growing up on TV, and it's really cool to get to step in the ring with him. The strongest human being I think I've ever been in the ring with. Like I would be hard pressed to find a person that was much stronger. Maybe Ray Rowan, Ring of Honor. I mean, yeah, he it might be Lashley. Lashley was just like a mountain of muscle, just solid as a rock. But no, he was a great dude. He was a sweetheart. I was very honored to be chosen for his debut in AEW, and getting to meet him, getting to work with him, and yeah, an absolute pro. Like yeah, I can't say enough good things about him.
When you get an opportunity to work for AEW, or if you ever had an opportunity to work other TV tapings, whether it be like WWE or something like that,
Mm.
what's the protocol for you? Like, because obviously you have a name outside of it's not you put in the work.
Mm.
People know who you are, so when you get an opportunity to be on a national platform like AEW, do you feel like you get a good reaction from the fans? Do you feel like they don't know you, or like how does that experience for you?
It's interesting. I was just talking to one of my students about this the other day. When Ring of Honor got sold to AEW, and our contracts were all done, and I was a free agent again. I got the opportunity to do AEW Dark like the following April after that, and I wrestled Tony Nese in a dark match, and I still love that match. I thought it was just such a good. It was like only a 4 minute match, but I thought we just told such a fun story. We got everything you needed, and just like a easy babyface heel story. And Tony Nese was absolutely tremendous to work with. But that was it was in Philadelphia, and I got an insane reaction from the fans when I came out, and I was not expecting that. My mindset is always like to think that fans don't know who you are or won't know you. You have to establish yourself.
Yeah,
Granted, I've wrestled in Philadelphia a lot. There was a lot of overlap with the Ring of Honor AEW fans, but to me, I'm like the AEW fan base isn't going to know me from Ring of Honor. So I remember that day I had to think. Did I want to be called Cheeseburger or World Famous CB? Because I had changed my name to World Famous CB during the ROH COVID times, during that period of the bubble. And when we all got let go, I was like, well, I might as well go back to being Cheeseburger because most people know me as Cheeseburger. And I was like, well, what will if the AEW fans don't know me, what would help me garner the best reaction and make me the most memorable? I was like, well, if they see a guy named Cheeseburger, they're probably gonna remember that guy named Cheeseburger, and also most of the fans remember me as Cheeseburger, so I might as well use that name. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna be called Cheeseburger today. I'll go back to that name today. And then I had this old gear that I had worn a lot in Ring of Honor that was like super, it was bright green and black. It was very shiny. It sparkled under the lights. It had a giant cheeseburger logo like on the chest. And I was like, all right, this is gonna make me stand out. I'm gonna be called
yeah,
Cheeseburger. I have this giant cheeseburger logo. I have this. My gear shines under the lights, so I look like a fucking disco ball. So I was like, all these things together. I want to at least like, if I don't get a job from this or whatever, I just want to at least be memorable and stand out. And as
yeah,
soon as I came out, before I even got into the ring, people like I could see people like kind of standing up, and especially I have like my like blonde hair and everything, so you could see it kind of poking up as I'm
yeah,
walking at the time the dark matches, you didn't make like your entrance, you kind of came out through the side, And I remember walking out through the side, just like super nervous because I've been done a lot in my career up to that point, but I was like, I don't want to mess up this. This is my first time getting a match at AEW. I'm
Right.
walking out and I could see people like start to stand up and kind of like look like, wait a minute, I'm like no. And as I get to the apron, people are just like, oh, it's like Cheeseburger here. What the hell? And I get to the ring, they just start chanting Cheeseburger before the match even starts. So you can see on the match as like I'm in the ring just standing there, just kind of like, hey, I'm dark match guy, and Tony Nese come
Yeah.
out. You hear people already starting the cheeseburger chants.
And that you said that was in Philadelphia?
Yeah, Philadelphia saw which was cool because I've wrestled so much in Philly and people know me there. But even though it was in Philly, I was just like I'm going into this assuming no one here is going to know me, have ever heard of Cheeseburger, whatever. I'm just going to try and do everything I can to make myself memorable and get a reaction and hopefully get brought back. And it was awesome. And I think yeah, it was a really fun match. And I really loved working with Tony Nese and Mark Sterling.
Tell me about, so we were talking about Japan and now we just talked about AEW and two of
Yes.
the biggest wrestling companies on the planet. I mean,
Mhm.
it doesn't get much bigger than AEW in the United States, obviously WWE, but and then New Japan is kind of like the biggest promotion in Japan. And for a while there was like maybe the second biggest wrestling promotion on the planet. And you had an opportunity to work there as well. What is it like when you step into those hallowed grounds, those sacred, arenas in Japan and have those opportunities to wrestle in front of a crowd who again, like they don't necessarily know Cheeseburger, but
Mhm.
you're going to do your best to stand out. You're going to be there to do your best to represent yourself in Ring of Honor. What was it like when you stepped into that New Japan ring, and what kind of reaction did you get from the fans there?
Once I discovered New Japan Pro Wrestling, that became my favorite company, and I wanted to know everything I could about Japanese wrestling, about New Japan, everything like that. And my goal in wrestling was never to, I mean, obviously AEW wasn't a thing at the time, but my goal in wrestling was never to go to WWE. Like if it happened, it happened. But my goal was always to go to Japan. Like I wanted to go, even it didn't even have to be New Japan. I just wanted to experience Japanese wrestling. Like I loved it that
Yeah.
much. And not only did I get to go to Japan, I got to wrestle for New Japan. Not only did I get to wrestle for New Japan, I got to debut in the freaking Tokyo Dome for the
Oh my
first time,
gosh.
which is insane. And I remember walking into the Tokyo Dome was the first time I remember like my like breath being taken away from me. Just like which is kind of cool. I don't think a lot of people know this, but there's a hotel, the Tokyo Dome Hotel, that's like right next to the dome. There's like an underground tunnel that we go to avoid the fans. You go
Oh,
downstairs, there's an underground tunnel, you go underground, and then you come up through like the dugout in the Tokyo Dome. And I remember walking through the dugout and just stepping onto the field and just seeing like I'm like, holy crap, this is real and this is like insane. And yeah, just getting to the first time I did thankfully I got to do multiple trips to Japan, but the first time I did the dome show, I did the Battle Royale, and I remember telling myself, I'm not gonna look out into the crowd because I'm gonna get like freaked out if I look into the crowd.
yeah.
So it wasn't until I got eliminated and I got pinned, I like looked up and I was like, okay, I can actually like take it in and soak it in. But I didn't want to look out and just I was like, if I look out, I'm just gonna it's gonna freak me out like the size of it when I'm in the match. So I'm just like super laser focused. And but after a few more trips, I got a bit more relaxed. But this is gonna sound like super weird, and this is going to sound like the most like privileged wrestler thing I'm about to say. But
I love it. Let's go.
'cause
I love it.
I've gotten to wrestle in some really like amazing arenas. But I remember thinking after wrestling in the Tokyo Dome when we did the Madison Square Garden show for the first time, I wasn't Madison Square Garden wasn't as big as I thought in my head. I had never been there before. I had never been there for like a basketball game or anything. And I
Right.
remember thinking like I don't know why. I know it's not as big, but in my head, I built up Madison Square Garden as like this gigantic arena. I was like, this is actually like way smaller than I expected. It was like kind of weirded me out. And it wasn't like it was cool, but it wasn't. Again, it sounds very it wasn't like as cool as I thought it was. I didn't have the same feeling I did like walking into the Tokyo Dome, like going to
Sure,
the
for
Madison Square
sure.
Garden. I was like, oh, this is like not as gigantic as I thought it was. It's really cool though.
Well, think about that, man. You just said, "Oh, coming from a privileged standpoint," but like you wrestled in essentially the mecca of wrestling in Japan and
Yeah,
the mecca of wrestling in
yeah,
the United
yeah,
States,
absolutely.
and that's pretty freaking awesome. Like as a fan, going to MSG is on the bucket list,
Mm.
and going to Tokyo Dome is definitely on the bucket list. One place I have gotten to go that not a lot of people have is I was able to go to Arena Mexico in Mexico City a few years ago.
Oh yeah. That's on my
And
that's next to my list to want to wrestle in.
and I love lucha, so that was perfect for me. I It was such an incredible opportunity, and I'm a big NWA guy, so I will follow the NWA where the NWA goes. So I was also fortunate enough to go to China with some of the wrestlers that
Oh,
went
okay.
with the NWA, and they
Yeah.
did a title match there. Nick Aldis defended his world title against Colt Boom Boom Cabana. It was a pretty big deal, and I was the only American journalist there. I was like, hell yeah, man, this is amazing. So I totally get when you get to these sacred grounds and you get to compete there. I mean,
Uh,
obviously I'm not
Arena
competing, but
Mexico. I got to watch a show at Arena Mexico when I lived in Mexico for a month training at Bandito's gym in 2024, no
oh
2023.
wow, wow.
Yeah. I trained. I lived down at the at Bandito's gym for a month. And stayed in the like dorm rooms there at the gym, and I got to go to Arena Mexico. Like me and some of the guys from Bandito's gym, we went to go watch Rocky Romero because he was down there at the time. And the same feeling I got in the Tokyo Dome when I walked in was what I got when Arena Mexico. Like when I walked in and actually saw it, I was like, oh, I was like, I just feel the energy here. Like I just felt something when I walked in. I was like, wow, this place is special, and it was cool. And I remember thinking like how badly I wanted to wrestle in that ring, like getting there. We got to sit. We were sitting like third row, like on the floor. It was like we're right there in the action. Man, it was incredible.
So well, then this is the next great question because I was going to ask you what was life like when you visited Japan, but I mean, I also want to know what it was like living in Mexico for
Oh, yeah.
a year. So I'm learning
Only a month.
Spanish.
Only a month.
Oh, sorry, a month. Excuse me, month. I'm learning Spanish, but I'm not. I would not consider myself a fluent Spanish speaker. I could order a meal, right?
Mm.
Do you speak Spanish? And when you're a
Oh no.
month there, like, how did you get around? How did you
uh,
manage that?
my when I was going to Japan, I learned Japanese. Like I self-taught myself Japanese, and my
Oh,
Japanese got
nice.
to a decent conversational level. Now it's really bad 'cause I haven't like studied in probably like 5 or 6 years,
Oh
or
wow.
like really had a reason to use it. But my Japanese is much better than my Spanish. My Spanish is absolutely almost non-existent. I tell people I know like lucha Spanish. I know how to like call a match in Spanish, kind of. Because
Okay.
I know a lot of the move names, or like the arm drag names and things like that. I know like some
Yeah.
of that. But in terms of just like a daily conversation, like I know like Quanto means like how much. That was kind of like
That's
where
good.
was
That's
that?
good.
So I was using that a lot. But yeah, no, it was no, my Spanish was really really bad. But I love living in Mexico. I only got to stay a month there. It's hard for me to leave for more than a month because I run my own school as well. But
Right.
I had learned lucha from my trainer, Delirious, who had learned from Skyda, who had taught a lot of the Chikara people and a lot of people like Chris Hero, Claudio, Orange Cassidy, like all those guys. He taught them their lucha, which they passed on to future generations. And I remember always wanting to learn, always hearing about the legend of Skyda and like his training and everything. And he was the head trainer at Bandito's gym at the time, which doesn't exist anymore. It got eventually like a year or so ago, it got bought out by Psycho Clown, so it's like his gym now.
Okay.
But at the time, it was owned by Bandito and another guy, and they had an amazing facility. Like my dream of what a pro wrestling school is like the Japanese dojos, and that was like the Japanese dojo like in Mexico. It was the whole ground floor, but it was like kind of a super version of that because the whole ground floor was basically like a Planet Fitness. Like regular people could buy a gym membership and use this gigantic gym there. They had like CrossFit place, like everything there. The ground floor is like a barber shop, a cafe. They had a merch store.
Nice.
Uh, they had like a whole like bunch of bathrooms, showers, everything. And then as you the ring was like behind like a curtain, so the wrestlers could train without the regular people seeing them.
Yeah.
Um, and you go upstairs, there's like three levels. The second level, they had a living room, like washer, dryer, kitchen, everything. And then on the third floor, they had like maybe like 15 to 18 dorm rooms that you could rent. And you could rent the room, you could stay there for a month. The training was all included. You had 24/7 access to the ring. They had
Wow.
classes like 3 times a day with different trainers. Skida would run the advanced classes. So I would train Skida and Flamita, who I knew from Ring of Honor. And yeah, I had messaged Bandito. I was like, hey, I want to come down to the gym. He invited me to come down, and yeah, it was a great experience. I did that for a month, learned a ton of lucha. I knew lucha already, and it like, but I realized I was like beginner level lucha, and this like really took me to the next level. And it was just cool getting to be a student again because I had been a trainer for so long at that point. And just I always tell my students like no matter what level, like you're always learning, like you always want to learn, you always want to improve, you never want to get stagnant. I was like, okay, I feel like I need to go somewhere and be a student again and start to learn again, and that was really cool.
What principles did you learn from Bandito's gym that you brought back to your gym?
Um, one, the environment. I always keep a good positive environment in my school, but I just love the camaraderie there, especially because a lot of the guys lived at the gym, so they got to live together.
Yeah,
But just like how hard the luchadors like train, like every single day, like they were like pushing it, and also too, that was the hardest training I think I no, no, I think I definitely know I've ever done because of the pace of the training was very, very fast, very, very fast, very intense. Not so much because it's like lucha, not so much a lot of bumping, but just a lot of like intricate movements that you have to remember. And the I think luchadors have the best like footwork in wrestling, just because they need to be in the right position for every single movement. Like they need like so if you watch a lot of guys that have like lucha training as their base, their footwork is like usually pretty impeccable. Just because you have to be in the right position, otherwise you're gonna not be there for someone that's flying at you for a head scissors or an arm drag or something like that, you know.
right, right.
And you have to feed certain ways to be in the right position for everything. And so timing, positioning were the biggest things. The pace at which they train, the intricacies of like different grips and like how to move your opponent around, all of that. And yeah, the hardest classes I did were Flamita's advanced classes. They were awesome. They just pushed me to another level, especially conditioning wise.
Yeah,
The other thing people don't, maybe some people know, some people don't, but the other thing people don't know about Mexico City, the gym was like slightly outside Mexico City, but it was basically Mexico City. The elevation is higher, which
yeah.
most people don't know. So I remember the first day I got there, I was just taking my like giant suitcase up 2 flights of stairs, and I was out of breath going up the stairs. And by the time I left there, I had the best cardio I've ever had in my entire life because it took me like 2 weeks to really get acclimated to like the altitude. And man, the Flamita classes would start with like an hour of CrossFit, and his classes were scheduled on the sheet for like 2 hours. It would basically be like from 12 noon Wednesday to just whenever he felt like stopping. And I remember one day we trained for like 5 hours straight. Just and
Wow.
we had 20 people in the class, and basically you would do a drill and then you would cycle back around. And by the time you had just finished catching your breath, it would be just time for you to go again. But we do like an hour CrossFit to warm up for his class. That was like the world, was an hour of workouts. Then like 3 hours just like just drills, just back and forth, drills like practice matches, things like that.
I've been on a fitness journey myself, and in the last 2 years, I'm hitting the gym and I'm lifting weights and I'm getting back to where I wanted to be, and I feel great. But 3 years ago, I was not. And when I was in Mexico City, man, I felt like shit the entire time.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize that the elevation's so much higher there. It's like it's
Yeah,
higher in Mexico City than it is in Colorado.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, you always hear about like for like the Rockies, like, oh, the ball flies out of the ballpark easier because you're in the mile high and
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
easy. It's like, oh, okay. And Mexico City's even higher than that. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
No wonder I felt like crap the entire time.
It was insane.
Uh so and that takes me to the next place because I mean Japan is amazing. Mexico City's amazing, but talk to me about working in Alaska. I mean, that's the last frontier, man. Like that's the last place on Earth where you would expect wrestling to happen. But you know, Wrestle Pro regularly
Yeah.
runs out in Alaska,
Mhm.
and you've been on a bunch of their cards. So tell me about working in Alaska.
Oh, Alaska is absolutely incredible. I'm actually scheduled to go back in on May 9th for a big anniversary show with the main company out there now, 907 Pro Wrestling. But
Okay,
yeah, I first did Alaska with Wrestle Pro Alaska in I believe 2021, and I've done I think close to 10 tours of Alaska now.
wow,
Which is crazy to think about, like how many people, there's so many people I know in my family that to them, like a trip is like going from New Jersey to New York, like an
Yeah,
hour
yeah,
and a
yeah,
half. Or some people have just like never left their home state. But the fact that I can say, like, not only have I gone to Alaska, I've gone to Alaska for work. Like, people have brought me to Alaska to work for them and perform and everything.
yeah.
And Alaska, honestly, is like becoming like a second home there because, like, I know some of the crew there. When Wrestle Pro first started, they had the school out there, 907 Pro Wrestling. They were just starting back up for the first time. I think they started in 2020 with like 3 students, and now 6 years later, they're their own standalone thing. They've grown. They have they do shows every month now. They built the Alaska scene was literally built from scratch from like 2019, 2020 to like to now.
Right.
And Wrestle Pro is a big part of that. 907 was the key part of that as well. JT West and his crew have been amazing to me, as well as Kevin Matthews and his Wrestle Pro crew have been amazing. 907 just brought out Kushida. He was who became the first Japanese wrestler to perform in Alaska, which is insane.
That's
Um,
wild.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty wild. And yeah, it's awesome out there. I love it. Also, not as cold as you would think, and especially in Anchorage. Uh, During the like spring, like summer months, even the fall, it's kind of like hoodie weather most of the time, unless it like
Yeah.
snows. December it does get like below zero, it gets pretty bad. But yeah, it's actually not as cold as you think. But I've gotten to go to a bunch of different areas in Alaska. Got to see a bunch of tourist sites. Eat reindeer sausage out there. I got to try moose as well. So
What?
it's cool. It's awesome there.
Oh, so like famously, I've had I am willing to try food. Like I've had alligator, that's cool. I've had quail, like that's whatever. But having like bison as a hamburger to me was a cool deal. You're eating moose. Tell me, I got to know, what does moose taste like?
It was like it was in like a casserole that they made me. So it just tasted it was very similar to like ground beef, maybe like a little tougher, I would say, but it was kind of like
Okay.
minced up, so I didn't really notice a big difference. It was yeah, I thought it was really good. Reindeer sausage is very popular there. Actually another thing, some people know this, some people don't, but I wrestled in a place called Inuvik in the Northwest Territories in Canada, and it is the furthest northern wrestling promotion in the entire world. Like,
Oh wow.
uh, further than like Russia, like everything. It is literally in the Arctic Circle. I wrestled next to the Arctic Ocean in Inuvik, actually that was in a native reservation called Tuktoyaktuk. But there's two places up there. Nuvik, I think, has a population of like 3,000 people, and Tuck has a reservation or population of like 900 people. And sorry, I'm getting off topic, but
Oh,
the reason I'm bringing this up is because one of the delicacies there, there's a big native population there, is muktuk, which is a whale blubber, and I got
oh.
to try that up there, and that actually was surprisingly like pretty decent. Um, Also, like, not to go off on a tangent, but in that area,
No, please go off on tangents. That's what I love, the tangents. That's what makes it
Anuvik,
fun.
the guy that started the company, Totally Arctic Wrestling, Destro, his ring name, which I love, is Destro the Eskimofo. Uh, which is one of my really good
Great.
friends in pro wrestling. Des started this company. They have at that time uh, there were 3 wrestlers that lived in that area. We did. I was the 4th wrestler they brought up. I was the first like name they actually like, brought up for their company. We did 2 shows with 4 wrestlers, and the 5th guy, he was the referee, ring announcer, and bell ringer, and also gear collector. So we did it was an awesome experience. I had a great time there. Also at the time they didn't have an actual ring. They had like a boxing ring they used, so we couldn't even
Ooh.
really like bump on it.
No, no, no.
But my first show there, we did 3 matches. We did a tag match with the 4 of us. They had 2 heels, and I was the other babyface with Nolar Bear, who was my tag partner. Which they're
Nolar bear?
Nolar. Oh, it's a great thing. His real name's like
I,
Noel, and
I
Noel Polar Bear, Nolar Bear. He was awesome. Um, we did a tag match with the 4 of us. We all went to the back. Nolar Bear and the other guy, Blue Wilder, they went out. They did like a last man standing match. Came back. Me and Destro go out. Me and Des do the main event for their title. I win the title in the main, and then the next day we do 3 more matches. They do a triple threat to determine number 1 contender. Nola Bear wins. Everyone comes to the back. Dez and Blue Wilder go out, do match number 2, come to the back. Me and Nola Bear do match number 3.
Wow. Conditioning had to be at an all-time high.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
it was awesome. It was really cool. That's like such that's probably the weirdest place I've wrestled, and like I mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
Inuvik, Northwest Territories. They're so far up north in the so in the winter it's darkness 24/7. In the summer it's
Right.
sunlight 24/7. So when I went up, it was in the summer. It wasn't like that cold. In the winter it gets like really bad, but in the summer it was, like I said, hoodie weather, but the sun was up the entire time I was there. We did the show, we left, did the show, came back to town, and it was like 2 a.m. and there were kids outside playing basketball. Just the sun was beaming, kids were
Yeah.
just hanging out at 2 a.m. just playing basketball outside.
That's wild to me. As a
Yeah.
parent myself, like, no, I don't care if the sun's out or not. It's 8 o'clock. It's time for us to go to
Yeah,
bed.
it
2
was
a
so crazy.
2 a.m. basketball. That's
Dude,
awesome.
the sun moved from like here to maybe like here the entire
Yeah.
time I was there.
That in the chat they said cheeseburger in Alaska. That means frozen beef. So if you go back, feel free to use it, no charge.
Yes.
Let's see. There's something else that I saw here that was good. Devin said nothing but wrestling for a month in Mexico. That sounds amazing.
It was awesome.
And so you were in Anchorage in Alaska, and then in the Northwest Territories in Canada.
In Alaska, Anchorage, I did. In Alaska, I did a bunch of different towns. The first time I went to Alaska, we did 5 shows over like 10 days. We did like a whole tour. So we actually didn't do Anchorage my first time. We did Soldana, Palmer, Alaska, and then we went up north to Fairbanks, Alaska, which is like 8 hours up north. When we drove through a blizzard, it took us like 12 hours to get there. And we had to come back down. It was insane. That's a whole other story. But I've wrestled in Fairbanks, Soldana, Palmer, Anchorage. There was another place in Alaska we went to.
Please tell me you have a journal where you've kept all the cities that you've wrestled at, because that just
Oh,
sounds.
I have I used to write in my notebook, but in my phone I have a list of every match I've ever had.
That's great.
Yeah, I keep a list of who my opponent was, date, and the town.
That's awesome. Like I know there's some guys that are like, oh, that's Mark stuff. I'm like, no, man, that's amazing. Like that's your own history.
Yeah,
That's
Chris
your
Jericho wrote a
legacy.
book with all his matches.
And that's incredible. I love that. Devin says, I have a friend in Kodiak that comes down to the States for shows a lot. Okay,
Did not get to go to Kodiak. I think Kodiak's like an island that you need to like take a boat to. I might be wrong though.
yeah. It's all foreign to me. Like I've been fortunate enough to travel to a lot of places. I have not been in Canada. I have not been to Alaska. I got
It's
to see
crazy.
I got to go to Rev Pro last year in London, which was awesome.
Oh, I worked Rev Pro 2 years ago. It was awesome. I got to go to Hawaii as well. Hawaii was probably one of my favorite places as well.
Now you sound like you were one of the guys back in the days, when coming from New Japan and doing those shows in Hawaii and then coming to LA at the Grand Olympic. That's how they used to do it back in the day, man.
I'm at 14 countries right now and then 39 states. So I want to get all 11 states. I only have a couple left.
What about the territories? How about Puerto Rico? Guam.
I do want to go to Puerto Rico. That's on my list as well.
My wife's 40th birthday is in June, and we're going to Aruba. And so I tweeted at Mark Henry like, "Hey man, does that all Caribbean come through Aruba? What are you guys doing in June?" Speaking of these amazing places that you've wrestled, of course you're going to be at an amazing place tomorrow night in Glassboro, New Jersey, at Rowan University, a place that I've driven past multiple times, but I've never been able to go inside of a DAWG event that's happened at Rowan University because I'm not a student. But I've watched all those matches that they've put out on YouTube, and it's such a cool environment. I talked about this with Brutal Bob. I had him on last week, and the venue is such a cool spot for wrestling because on a college campus, of course, kids have everything they can do, besides doing studies and going out on dates and all that stuff. having wrestling come to your student center, I think is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And and the fan base, like, that's there, like, I would say, like, half the kids that are watching that wrestling aren't necessarily wrestling fans,
Mhm.
but it's something better than being in the dorms, and they get into it, and those the and I say kids, but the students at the university really get into the matches, and it is their version of WrestleMania. It's right there in their student center, and DAWG has done this a couple of times, and the videos always look great on YouTube
Yeah.
because the building itself is very, the
Yeah,
architecture of the building is
it
really
looks
cool.
interesting.
So, this will be your first wRAHstlemania event?
Yes, yes. I've heard about the Rowan University events with DAWG, and some of my students have worked on them before, and I've watched like videos or like critique matches from it. And I always thought it would like look like an interesting setting. So when they contacted me about it, I was super pumped for it, and yeah, I think I don't know if I've ever maybe like once or twice wrestled in like a university, but I'm super pumped for it. And yeah, it looks like a really fun time.
And, we're good friends with the, Dangerous Degenerate Wrestling Gladiators over here. We try to plug them as often as we can, and I've actually been out to Glassboro for some of their live events, and it's always been a good time. I'm sure it's gonna be the same for you when you're there at Rowan University. Uh, do you know what your matchup is yet, or are you gonna be surprised when you get there?
I am unfamiliar with the matches right now. I haven't heard any rumblings. I know a couple of people that they use, so there should be some fun potential matchups for tomorrow. But yeah, I'm up to take on anyone and everybody.
And we had spoken a lot about your opportunities to train in Mexico City, which I think is amazing, and your training at the ROH Dojo. But you also now are a teacher as well, and
Mm.
you are teaching classes at your dojo. Can you tell us a little bit about the Worldwide Wrestling?
Yes.
I'm sorry, is that what it's called? I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah. The World Wrestling Dojo. We are in Bristol, Pennsylvania, just a little bit outside Philadelphia. We have been going strong for 8 years now. I started the school in 2018. Essentially, long story short, the school was kind of birthed out of the ashes of the old Ring of Honor dojo. If you notice in our videos, we still have the Ring of Honor black and red stripe kind of going around the entire school, just as a piece of history there. But yeah, we I was a student at Ring of Honor from 2000 starting 2010. I eventually became one of the assistant trainers at the Ring of Honor dojo. And then in 2018, our company that owned us, Sinclair, wanted to shut down the school. They wanted to move everything more closer to their headquarters in Baltimore. So they're shutting the school down, and all my students at the time wouldn't have a place to continue training. They offered me a job to move down to Baltimore and continue training with them, but I politely declined. One, I didn't want to move to Baltimore, but also I didn't want to just like abandon the students that we had. So I thought about it long and hard, and I said, well, maybe I'll try and restart the school myself. So I bought the ring from Ring of Honor. I signed the lease for the building, and I said, I don't know if this is gonna last a month or two or a year before all falls apart, but let's give it a try. And we've been going strong 8 years now, and yeah, things are going good. We've trained a lot of really fantastic students. We have a lot more students on the way getting ready to make their debut, and I love teaching. I love training. Is the thing that keeps me sane during the week. Pro wrestling is my job. I wrestle on the weekends. I train during the week. I run my school, and yeah, it is awesome. I love getting to see someone take their first steps into the school from day one and get to train them and see them graduate and see them get and do cool stuff, see them get them travel, see them get them work the independence or sign a contract, things like that.
Well, I know, and I was looking at the website earlier, and the link to the website is in the video description. So if you guys want to check it out, please do. Especially if you're looking to find a place to train, uh, because you've had quite a few successful students, and maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe the most famous one right now is like Wheeler Yuta, who's been
Mm,
kind of killing it for AEW as part of the
yes.
Death Riders. Uh, and we know that Dylan Mesh is one of your students too. Of
Yes.
course, Dylan
Yes.
Mesh, former Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiator Tag Team Champion. Tell me about the process of having your students come in and teaching them. Do you have to break bad habits, or do they usually come in open and ready to learn?
So it depends. I get two types of students. I'll get people that have zero wrestling experience, and then I'll get people that maybe actually I'll say three different types of students. I'll get people that have zero experience. Then I'll get people that maybe had a little bit of training at an old school, but maybe didn't like the environment or something, but never like finished their training, so they haven't debuted yet. So then they transfer over to me, and then I'll get people that are fully trained wrestlers that have graduated and are working indies that start coming over for like drop-ins, and then they kind of end up becoming like a part of the family here. Um, Most of the time, it depends on where the person trained at, but sometimes I have to break what I consider to be bad habits when people first come from like another place. My general preference is to take people with zero experience, just because you don't have to worry about training out those bad habits. You can kind of show them what you're looking for right from the start, and that's kind of the only point of reference they really have. So it's a little easier to train them. Sometimes you'll get people that came from like schools where they just like didn't really show them like anything properly, and then you have to train out a lot of bad habits
Yeah.
and kind of almost like retrain them from the ground up, which can be very difficult. Obviously, it depends on if the person is coachable, but it can be difficult in the sense of like if you've been doing something a certain way for 2 or 3 years and that's the only way you know how to do it, then that just becomes your normal. So it's hard for someone to be like, hey, this thing you've been doing is incorrect, so I think you should do it like this. And it's just kind of hard to kind of break that muscle memory.
I have kept you on for almost an hour now, and I would love to talk to you for another hour, but unfortunately, I can't. This has been a hell of a conversation, and I've learned more about you and have a newfound respect for you, Cheeseburger. And that's not to say I didn't respect you before, but like you're a great dude, and it was
Thank you.
really cool chatting with you.
Yeah, this time
Um,
flew by.
yeah, I'm like, oh, it's already been an hour. Um, Obviously, you're going to be wrestling for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators tomorrow night
Yes.
at the University of Rowan University. Where are you going to be next? How can people see you wrestle, and how can they follow you on socials?
I'm going next week. I fly to Arkansas for the second time. Doing the show in Arkansas for Razor Pro Wrestling.
Okay.
So that'll be fun. I've only wrestled in Arkansas once before, so I'm looking forward to that. And then at the end of the month, I have a really exciting show for one of my home companies, Labor of Love, in Philadelphia. March 27th. That they always put on a really really good show. They always combine like kind of punk rock and like pro wrestling. They'll usually always
Oh,
have like bands and stuff like that play
that's cool.
along with pro wrestling. So that's always really fun. And then another big show coming up is Power Pro Lucha. At the start of April, I believe 3rd and 4th, they have their anniversary shows. And actually, funny enough, just kind of circle back. I am April 4th. I am wrestling Skyda, my trainer from Mexico, legendary trainer of a billion wrestlers all over the world from Japan, America, Mexico. One of the greatest trainers in pro wrestling, but the person that taught my trainers Lucha that I learned from, and I went to learn from him at Bandito. So we get to wrestle for the first time in the singles match, and I am extremely excited.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm gonna make sure to follow for that one because I want
Mhm.
to see that matchup.
Yes.
Obviously, I won't be making a trek out there, but hopefully, it finds its way onto
They will
YouTube.
be on the IWTV live.
There it is. See, and you plugged it. I didn't even have to ask you to plug it. You just plugged it. You're good at this.
I am a consummate professional, or at least I
I
try to
was gonna.
be.
You should make a career out of this, man. Just kidding. Just kidding. All right. And then the last thing is, of course, you said you've wrestled. You only need 11 more states. Which states are left on the list? Because I'm dying to know now.
I don't have them all memorized, but the main ones are. I might be able to figure out. Okay, I haven't done Pacific Northwest yet, which there's so much
Okay.
wrestling there, but I have not been able to get booked out there yet. Washington and Oregon. Uh, there are places that have almost no pro wrestling that are really tough, which are like Wyoming and like
Yeah.
Idaho. There's like nothing in either of. Uh, I think South Dakota and North Dakota. One of them, like I think each of them have like maybe like one company. New Mexico has a couple of places, I think, so I gotta get there. Kentucky has a bunch of places. I just need to get my license for there. Mississippi. Oh God, what are the other ones? Oh, Iowa, and I'm missing one more. Damn, there's no. I can't. Why can't I think of it? Oh, Montana.
That sounds
Yes,
that's
it.
accurate.
Yes, Montana's. Yes, those are the 11. Those are the 11.
Well, I'm hoping in 2026 that you could cross off a couple more of those states.
I'm gonna try my best.
We'll be rooting for you the whole way through it. Thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. Good luck tomorrow night, and of course, good luck for you for the rest of the month and really the rest of the year. Why stop at just a month, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, thank you for your time, Cheeseburger. I appreciate it so much. And until next time, we'll see you guys at the matches.
Victor.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.